This week, we open the car file on all American cars. Why would a British driver choose a stateside Blazer, Camaro or Seville when parts availability and breakdown know-how could be a real problem? Richard Hammond investigates. Plus, Brendan Coogan, Steve's brother, flies to the States to witness the German invasion of America. But first, how the Americans want to sell us the pick-up dream.
In America, they just love them. No, I'm not talking about burgers, donuts or muffins. I'm talking about pickup trucks. Why Americans have this fascination with pickup trucks, I really just can't understand, to be honest. And you don't have to be a hillbilly redneck swilling bourbon to drive one. They've now become family vehicles with large cabs, luxury accommodation, and in the case of something like the Dodge Ram, a seriously fast beast that can outdrag most sports cars. So it's interesting that Ford have decided to launch this, the new Ranger, here in the UK. Now, apparently our lifestyles demand this sort of vehicle. It's going to be the next big trend. Does your lifestyle demand a pickup truck? No, and I'm not sure that mine does either. Perhaps it's more the case that Mitsubishi have the L200 introduced now in the UK and Toyota have the Hilux. But at the moment, the pickup truck market here in Britain is only worth 0.13% of total vehicles sold. So in other words, the market share is tiny for this sort of vehicle, unlike this rather big beast, which is big in every way, apart from what's under the bonnet. Now, you get a choice of two 2.5 litre diesel engines. The first kicks out only 78 brake horsepower and is an indirect injection diesel. This second one is better. It produces 109 brake horsepower. It's turbocharged and intercooled. It's the same 2.5 litre engine. But let's face it, neither engine is going to produce really any sort of excitement. And you can imagine both of them struggling up a fairly large hill with a full payload and a trailer on the back. So how does the Ranger cope out on the road? Well, you have to start by saying it's slow. It's unbelievably slow, in fact. I know 0 to 60 figure times don't really count for this sort of vehicle, but just to give you an example and to prove the point, I'll tell you anyway. The 60 mph sprint in this 2.5 turbo diesel takes, a snail's pace, 26 seconds. But that's nothing compared to the non-turbo diesel engine, which would take you to 60 mph in an astonishing 43 seconds. You could run faster, for goodness sake. It's amazing that in America pickup trucks have wonderful, huge engines, superb acceleration. Here, they're tinny, they're hopeless, they're slow. There are 3 versions of the Ranger: a regular cab with seating for 2 and either 2 or 4-wheel drive, a super cab with 2 extra jump seats and 2-wheel drive, and this, the 4-door double cab, the family version if you like. It seats 5, it has 4-wheel drive and the turbocharged engine, plus lots of payload space. Ride-wise in the Ranger, well, the suspension is very, very soft, which you really notice at most on country lanes. On the motorway, it's fine. Steering, a little light, a little vague, a lot of understeer. You go towards a corner, you start to turn, and nothing much seems to happen, so you turn and turn again until you get round. Acceleration through the gears, first and second, nothing much to talk about, but once you get into third and fourth gears, there's plenty of torque there, and it's very happy cruising on the motorway at 70 or so miles an hour, with still plenty to get you past slower traffic. Inside the cabin, it's really quite spacious, certainly thanks to this high roofline. Ford claim you can also seat 5 adults in comfort in this double cab version. Now, looking at those rear seats, I somehow doubt that, but anyway, that's what they claim. Specification is pretty high. The steering wheel is tilt and height adjustable. You get a radio cassette play, you get twin sun visors no less, which obviously is a big selling point on pickup trucks. Other things in this double cab version you get as well: electric windows and air conditioning, bless them. Now, although Ford claim that this is the sort of vehicle that can be used to enhance our lifestyle, I can't honestly see it, can you? If you're a builder, a tradesman, something like that, you need that payload capacity at the back, absolutely fine. For the rest of us, just doesn't work for me, and certainly Mitsubishi's L200 looks better. Prices, well, they start at about £10,500 for the caffeine-free regular cab version, rising to about £15,000 for this caffeine-enhanced double cab version.
If that sword from the Renault ad is anything to go by and size really does matter, then she should cop a load of this. Because we've brought a handful of big Americans to France, obviously, to find out if bigger really is better. So take your pick and prepare to go large. If you've always fancied a little sports car, then we'll try one of these for you, a Chevy Corvette, a really great big sports car. If you always fancy being pampered, well, don't mess around with tiddly little Beamers and the like. Go large and try a Cadillac Seville. For lovers of the four-wheel drive, or trade in your tiddly little Suzuki Jeep for one of these, a Chevy Blazer. And if you want more car than you ever thought you'd get for your money, we'll try out one of these, a Chevy Camaro. The Corvette is in fact the world's best-selling sports car, which must say something good about it, and it's now available over here. Well, not over here, this is France, over there, as in the UK, as opposed to the US, well, you know what I mean. Anyway, I've got cruising to do, so I can't sit around and chat. Got to look good on the streets. Oh my God! This thing's enormous! So, what was that bloke formerly known as Prince going on about when he sang Little Red Corvette? There is nothing little about this car, it's enormous. Even the figures are huge. It's a V8, 5.7 litre, 343 brake horsepower. The only small figure, in fact, is the 0 to 60. This whole thing will dash from 0 to 60 in about 5.2 seconds, which is ridiculous. But it does mean, above all else, I want to be in the movies. It isn't all about brute force, though. There is some sophistication at work here. Not only do I have a very elaborate traction control system, which is probably just as well, I've even got a head-up display to tell me on the windscreen my RPM, kilometres an hour, and my oil temperature. It is only available in the UK in left-hand drive, and it's not cheap. Expect to pay between £40,000 and £45,000 for your Corvette, depending upon the specification. There's one market where I can see that big really is best. Corporate fat cats, ever eager to flash a bigger checkbook, company jet and cholesterol count than their competitors. Now, you don't see them praising a car for its compact dimensions, do you? What we want here is big, big and comfy. And the Cadillac Seville is both of those things. If, as I'm chatting away here, I get an oddly sort of glazed look on my face, that's because I'm having my bottom massaged. Well, not exactly. The seat is adapting to my own personal shape as we go along, which means both the seat pad cushion and the one behind me, they move and compress, and it's quite an unnerving sensation. And that really sums this car up for the corporate fat cat who likes being pampered. You can't get any more pampered than here. They killed an entire field full of cows and spread their skin all over the inside of this thing. Every conceivable thing is electronically adjustable. Seats, steering wheel, the lot. This is a very, very big, comfy car. Prices for the Seville start at a shade under £40,000, but that list of specification goes on and on. It sounds like something from the Generation game. You get a CD auto changer, air conditioning, obviously, even a television and clever gizmos to help you park. And that's not all. Cadillac have another little trick up their sleeve that they hope will interest you. Dark, isn't it? Far too dark for filming, obviously, and too dark for driving as well. Unless you've got some of these. Headlights. Handy things, of course. They do make it an awful lot easier to see and to drive. That is until anything that's in them starts to get a little bit too far away. Then it can all get rather tricky. There's a novel solution. Look! I'm an amorphous white blob, which might not seem very impressive, but it's important because I am an amorphous white blob that you can see. Because this is night vision. And we're going to try it. It was developed by Cadillac together with the company that actually developed it for use in combat. And it really is night vision, the proper thing, infrared and all of that. It's fitted here to a Seville, which is, I should say, very much a full-size American car. And it is in production in America. This isn't pie in the sky, it's real. There's a camera lodged behind the middle of the grille in front of the radiator at the front of the car. And it picks up, obviously, infrared light from objects in front of us, and it actually projects an image up onto the windscreen in front of me. It's head-up display. The effect is that I can see probably 5 times further than I can see in my own headlamps, which has huge safety implications. Obviously, they're extraordinarily pleased with this. It's in production in America, but I guess we will see it, and they're certainly confident that we will see it in Europe eventually. The surprising thing is that as an optional extra in America on Cadillac, it costs about $2,000, which really isn't a huge amount of money. And that really is an amazing piece of technology. And as I stare at it now, I can see people running across the road that I genuinely cannot see in the lamps. It works. The Americans invented the concept of the off-roader with the original Jeep, but back then in the war it was really rather a puny little thing. It had to be because of the original design criteria that it must be possible for 4 men to carry it in the battlefield. But nowadays, in common with overdrafts and crime figures, off-roaders have got bigger. This, the Chevy Blazer, is one of America's best-selling 4x4s, and we can now get it in the UK in right-hand drive. It's funny, but despite that first original American Jeep being a very genuine, back-to-basics, roughy-tufty off-roader, modern-day American off-roaders are more on-roaders. They're openly suburban vehicles. Some of them are even called suburban. The Chevy Blazer is no exception. It's big and comfy, great for cruising, taking the kids to school and back. Having said that it's comfortable and actually quite highly specified, which it is, don't expect to be necessarily pampered. The standard of fit and finish and the quality of the materials is not perhaps what we're used to from a European manufacturer. The Blazer starts at around £23,000, but 95% of customers in the UK opt for the leather and automatic version, which adds up to around £25,000. While we Brits were squeezing our stiff upper lips into the Healey Sprite, the MG Midget and the Triumph Spitfire, the Yanks were wedging their hamburger butts into cars so capacious and powerful you needed an oil tanker captain's licence to take them off the forecourt. Muscle power was in, and it still is to a degree. This is the Camaro. You can buy one of these in the UK and they start for less than £20,000, which means you get about a yard of car for every quid you spend. I'm off for a burger. Don't expect the big Camaro to exert a vice-like grip on the road, though. It was designed for a country with hundreds of miles of roads, all with less bends than a set-square factory. It would be very easy as you drive the Camaro to start criticising it for being not as well put together as, say, an Audi. But you have to keep reminding yourself, 20-something grand, just 20-something grand. There's no money for a lot of car. Okay, I've got to come right out and say it. I just love big old lazy American sports cars. I loved the Dukes of Hazzard, I loved Smokey and the Bandit, and I want their cars. I'd also like to be able to jump a 600-foot ravine in their cars, when in fact they'd break in half if you drop them from more than a foot off the ground, but I probably never will. If there's one thing all these cars have in common, the Corvette, the Camaro, the Seville and the Blazer, it's huge grin potential.
America is the land of the free. Junk food, incredibly cheap petrol, and of course incredibly big cars. And whenever I go to the States and ask for a rental car, I say, give me the biggest barge you've got. Well, not quite the size of this, but you get my drift. American cars are very big. They don't call them Yank tanks for nothing. So it's interesting that General Motors and Vauxhall have decided to import one of the biggest Yank tanks into the UK and in right-hand drive form. It's the Cadillac Seville. It's a very big car, as you can see. However, it's not quite as big as maybe an S-Class or an Audi A8. It is actually slightly shorter than those. So the cost of this Cadillac Seville is £40,000. Is it a good buy, or is it bye-bye to your hard-earned cash? Now, it'll be interesting to see how the value of the Cadillac stacks up in about 3 years' time. Residuals we don't know about, but don't expect them to be fantastic. Now, if you'd wanted an American car beforehand, you of course had to go to a specialist American car importer, and there are good and bad ones of those. You'd of course have to settle for left-hand drive. You'd probably find much more choice and perhaps better value for money. So it's interesting that these cars are now available in right-hand drive, along with the other car that Vauxhall are importing, which is a 4x4 called the Chevy Blazer. And both cars apparently are selling like bacon butties at a bar mitzvah. But it's under the engine that's quite interesting. Take a look at this beast. It's an amazing engine and very, very powerful and quiet. So the Seville's not a bad car. It's good value for money at about £40,000, but you almost get the feeling that it's a slightly sanitised American car, particularly for the British market. So let's go and see some real American cars. A 62 Cadillac
61.
with the fins. 61 with the fins.
Yes. This is one we keep. This is was supplied new to Switzerland. Only covered 50,000 miles. Original, perfect original car. For many people, this is a classic wings and fins Cadillac.
What was the idea behind the wings and the fins? Was it anything in particular? Was there some ploy of...
I think they had something wrong with them. They've become obsessed with jet engines and wings on planes and thought this
Makes
was
it go
the way
faster.
to the future, yes.
So, an American car, left or right-hand drive, is it right for you? Well, why not? Buy an imported one like these, and they certainly offer tremendous value for money and fantastic reliability. They might drink a bit more fuel than your average motor, but for street cred, you really can't beat them.
Well, you can cut that music for a start. Leave it. Yes, I may be in the deep south of the good old US of A, but there's going to be no scenes from Deliverance here today. Yes, I'm in Alabama to have a look at Mercedes' brand new venture, the M-Class, the vehicle that they believe is going to take on the Discoveries, Range Rovers and Explorers of the world in the very lucrative sports utility vehicle market. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, is this the market leader that everybody's predicting, or is it just another 4x4 with acres of room and a set of sporty alloys? There's only one way to find out. Let's have a drive. By the way, if you do see any canoes or dodgy men with moustaches, be sure to give us the nod, because tonight I don't want to be squealing like a pig. Let's go.
Imagine a woman with all the style and elegance of Audrey Hepburn, coupled with the obvious talents of Victoria Principal. Throw in a little of the muscle and power of the Ewing Corporation, and well, you've created a monster or the perfect woman. Well, it's a little like what Mercedes are attempting to do here with the M-Class. They're trying to marry the traditional values of a Mercedes, build quality, refinement and style, with the attributes of a sport utility vehicle, ruggedness, cargo room and ground clearance. A difficult challenge in anyone's book, and the fact that it's entirely built and assembled here in Alabama, and Mercedes have given themselves a tall order indeed.
Oh, shut up.
Here we go, this is it, the M-Class. This is the V6 3.2 model with 3 valves per cylinder and 2 spark plugs, which Mercedes say gives it very clean emissions. Well, as you can see, it's a very stylish car. It's got Mercedes written all over it, really. Well, it would do, wouldn't it? And it's quite a cumbersome big fella. Got a big feeling, very big tyres, very wide. I could talk all day, but I'll tell you what, the temperature is into the high 90s now, and I'm very hot. And inside there is air conditioning. Guess where I'm going?
I do hope you understand me getting back into the air-conditioned interior of the Mercedes. You see, I've been brought up on English winters, not Alabama summers, where climate control is leaving the window slightly ajar to get rid of the condensation.
This 217 brake horsepower version of the M-Class gives adequate, if not excessive, pulling power. Remember, I'm still talking about the engine, provided, of course, you want to go in a straight line. Mid-range torque is there, but it's not immediate, so if you want to overtake, then plan ahead. On some of Alabama's steeper hills, you might find yourself struggling for power. But as most of the roads are straight, like everywhere else in America, and you just need that 40 to 60 range, you'll find the M-Class more than adequate. The handling of the M-Class is rather predictable for a 4x4 made in America. In and out of corners there is roll, but as I'm from Manchester, I'll just roll with it.
The obvious danger with the concept of this car is that it'll end up being a jack of all trades but a master of none. It's essentially trying to be several cars rolled into one. However, that's the car's best quality. It is a jack of all trades. I mean, if this car was called Jack, then it'd be a competent plumber, handy in the garden, in fact very versatile all round the house.
If you're a Mercedes fan, then you'll love the M-Class. It's Mercedes through and through. There's leather and walnut everywhere inside the cabin, although I have to say some parts of the plastic dash I find a bit tacky. But in terms of equipment, it's absolutely loaded. It's more loaded than Richard Branson the morning after he's won a rollover on the National Lottery.
This off-road course has been purpose-built by Mercedes to display the strengths of the M-Class, so obviously it's not going to incorporate any gradients or obstacles that the car can't handle. But nevertheless, the challenges posed here are still considerable. Hills steeper than you'd find in most national parks, and puddles deeper than anything even a rainy week in Manchester could provide.
Okay, talk me through it, Trevor.
Now here on this down here, you're going to wait till all four wheels touch the ground, ease on through, and then release the brake at your leisure, and the engine braking will take over. No worries.
No worries, he says.
No worries.
Good Lord.
Right.
Right, this is terrific fun. We don't have hills like this in Manchester, but good fun nonetheless. Right, I want brake, accelerator here, yeah?
Accelerator here, definitely. And
Gas.
again, anytime the wheels start to slip, steady acceleration, pull you out every time.
Steady acceleration.
Steady acceleration, about 2,000 RPM.
2,000 RPM, and no problem.
No problem. A little different from some four-wheel drive systems.
Okay.
Takes a little getting used to, but it's really user-friendly.
This is the ETS that Trevor's talking about. Basically, there's three differentials, and if even three wheels start to slip, as much of the power as possible goes to that fourth wheel by applying a brake to the other three wheels. Was that about right?
Brilliant.
All things considered, the M-Class performed well on and off-road, and it is great fun. So if you've got £32,000 to spend and want a refined sports utility vehicle, then my advice is certainly to give the M-Class a test drive. Could well bring a smile to your face.